We,
Sohnia
and Jaanuni, are a couple of pals studying science in undergrad. We are not professionals.
Though every episode is meticulously researched, mistakes do happen.
If you notice that anything,
And we mean anything.
we state is inaccurate, please let us know.
Your comments, suggestions, and queries are important in furthering our personal and audience's understanding of science.
Thanks for being a part of this discussion.
We appreciate you.
We really do.
Bop, bop, beep, bop, bop.
Howdy ho, Jaanuni.
Howdy ho, Sohnia. I love
Have
that.
you ever watched South Park?
Mm-mm.
No.
My brother's a big fan, but
Like a little while ago, there used to be Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo,
Okay.
and he used to go, "Howdy ho, everybody."
That's it?
Well, he would say more with the intro, but that's where the
Okay.
howdy ho thing came from. Ask
Wow.
your brother if you remember.
Howdy.
He
I'll
knows
just go up to him and be like, howdy ho.
What are you saying?
As you can see, I have a green juice.
Oh, interesting. Where'd you get that from?
Revitalize. Revitasize. They're having a buy one get $1 smoothie this month. So
Okay.
I bought one.
Mhm.
I got one for $1.
Well.
I was gonna say, like, the green color of my drink.
Mhm.
Today's episode is quite green.
Oh, wow. Great transition. That's right, everybody. Today we're talking about Green Day. No, not the band. I mean the world as an Earth Day. That's right, everybody. On April 22nd.
Yeah.
Yep, April 22nd is Earth Day, the day where we celebrate Mother Earth and all her greenery and vivaciousness, and
We stand the queen.
we stand Queen Earth.
Anyways, in case you didn't know, what is Earth Day besides, celebrating Queen Earth? So I'm pretty sure a lot of viewers might know that every year on April 22nd, we celebrate Earth Day. There's various times where you turn off the lights, I know.
I remember in elementary school, it used to be like Earth Hour, so we'd only do it for an hour. But then some people are bold, they go above and beyond, and they do the whole day, which I think is like the intention of the thing.
Yeah, it's not too bad, especially since it's really bright outside usually during the day. So, hey guys, do that. Anyways, Earth Day was actually first celebrated on April 22nd, 1970. This was actually not globally. This is it was solely basically in America, the United States, where 20 million Americans, so about 10% of the population at the time, took to the streets and they started protesting against environmental ignorance. The credit for this major event actually goes to U.S. Senator Nelson, who rallied the support of people regarding this pressing issue. So climate change and biodiversity loss. As a result, environment and earth conservation became a topic of discussion on a national level. So after several years of getting support from activists across the globe, so 20 years later, Earth Day actually went global. So in 1990, what specifically happened was a group of environmental leaders approached activist Dennis Hayes sorry, I was out of breath for that. Approached Dennis Hayes to organize a major campaign for the planet. So he initially actually did teaching events at colleges for educating about Earth Day and all that stuff. So basically, global leaders came to this activist person and was like, "Hey, can you make another one?" And so this time Earth Day actually went global. It's about I think 20 million people in over 141 countries came together and were lifting environmental issues and bringing it raising awareness for this. So that's amazing. And also Earth Day 1990 gave a huge boost to recycling efforts worldwide and helped pave the path for the 1992 United Nations Earth Summit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, okay. It was also really cool was that in 2016 on Earth Day, they several countries around the world agreed to legally bind the climate deal at the Paris Climate Conference. So that's fun.
Mm-hmm. Some countries did back out, but then now they've joined back in, or some of them have.
I'm glad for those countries.
Mm-hmm.
sorry. But basically, like, Earth Day is really about raising awareness about climate change and biodiversity loss and all that, all the bad stuff that's happening to our environment and to our Earth, to the place that we live in. So, in our part of celebrating Earth Day and bringing and raising awareness, we're going to actually dedicate part of this episode into talking about biodiversity loss and climate change. So,
Yeah, I guess I'll take it away from there. Really quickly before I do, though, looking at when Earth Day originally started, so in the early 1970s, that was really when like the whole environmentalism movement kicked off, and a lot of like not a lot of people, but a lot of people. What am I trying to say? A lot of people attribute to the start of this movement to people like Rachel Carson, who is a well-known biologist. She also wrote the book Silent Spring, which really kickstarted the whole environmentalism movement because of everything that was happening with DDT, so that pesticide that was causing a lot of problems in habitat loss and biodiversity loss, which is something we're going to be talking about right now. So I guess just to give a really quick overall summary of what biodiversity is. So basically, biodiversity describes the enormous variety and variability of biological life around us. So that's a bit of a convoluted definition, but to be more specific, it basically serves as a measure that indicates species and genetic variation within an ecosystem. So looking at the amount of different species. So if there was only one type of organism or one type of species in an environment, that would be indicative of a lack of biodiversity. When there's a lot of different species of plants and animals, that's when there's an abundance of biodiversity. But anyways, so though we often hear these, like if you turn on the news, like to CNN or something like that, you can often hear like weird stories of different species being discovered all around the world, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever like popped on National Geographic or CNN and you see an article saying that, oh, 15 new species have been discovered in 2020. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that.
I've seen like a new fish that was discovered, and it was like translucent kind of thing. Ooh. Crazy shit I've ever seen. I gotta say,
wild. Crazy shit I've ever seen. That's funny. But even though we often see a lot of those articles, what's actually happening is that due to human activities that lead to land use changes, and like we were talking about before, human-caused climate change, there's a lot more species around the world that are at risk of extinction. And basically right now, the Earth is at risk of mass biodiversity loss because right now we're living in an era known as the Holocene extinction. And this Holocene extinction basically describes the fact that Earth is living during we are living during a time where ever since humans started to pop up and start creating like emerged from the ground, but started creating like civilizations and stuff like that, and started producing a lot of waste and all that kind of stuff. It's contributed a lot to like climate change and habitat destruction, which is freaking wild. But what's even more wild is that species today are vanishing at a rate 1,000 times higher than before humans ever existed. And in fact, more than 99.9% of all species that have ever lived on Earth, which is estimated to be over 5 billion, which is insane, 99.9% of those are thought to be extinct today. 99.9% of all species that have ever lived on Earth are thought to be extinct. And during this era, and during this era of human existence, species are vanishing and going extinct 1,000 times higher than before they did when humans weren't around.
I'm curious on how they like are able to go about and like finding this information. So I think it's amazing how science has kind of like evolved to like knowing things even before we were on this planet.
There's a TikTok that I'm not really one with the TikTok, but you know Hank Green, the guy that so Hank Green did a TikTok explaining that. You know, I'll link it in the references for this because he explains it better than I do. But there's basically like a bunch of different ways that scientists study whether or not like a species is extinct
Mhm.
and like how they know like things exist in a certain
Yeah.
habitat, and we'll put in the reference stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very simple explanation of that.
Okay.
But yeah, moving on, I guess. Among, I guess, the millions of species that are essentially vanishing right now as a result of human activity are those that facilitate pollination. So pollination is something you may have learned back in like grade 10 science, or you might have learned in elementary school. But just to give a brief summary of what pollinators are and what pollination is and why they're so important to this conversation. Simply put, pollination is basically a process where pollen grains are transferred from one flower to another. So it's basically just moving like seeds in order to allow them to reproduce,
Mhm.
I guess. But this process can either be facilitated through self-pollination. So the pollen is basically carried by wind and water,
Oh
or
yeah.
through the work of vectors known as pollinators.
Mhm.
So these pollinators include a wide variety of organisms like birds, bats, bees, butterflies, beetles, and other small organisms. And as pollinators visit flowers, they basically move pollen from flower to flower
Yeah.
to help plants reproduce, right? Like I was saying before. And as I guess summary, pollination is basically an ecological service that is crucial to sustaining biodiversity by enabling plant reproduction and preventing species extinction.
Okay. No, that makes
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, so basically right now, just to give a brief summary of what we've spoken about, we have an understanding of what biodiversity is, an understanding of the roles of pollinators and how they, I guess, relate to climate change.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
If we
because a
didn't
lot
have
of this is being caused by human activities like human-induced climate change, habitat destruction, all that kind of fun stuff.
we're taking
Right.
away the bees' homes.
Yep. So we are making bees homeless.
Oh my God.
It is a bee genocide.
It is. Oh my God.
Anyways, moving on from that. Not that was a horrible transition.
That was so sad. Anyways, more about the bee genocide, Sonia.
Yeah. So I guess now that we've basically developed a fundamental understanding of these topics relating to biodiversity and pollinators, I guess we still have the remaining question, right? This overall question is, I guess, what is the implications and the relationship between biodiversity loss and pollinators?
I'm
Why-
sure everyone at home was thinking about that
Yes.
question.
These are the questions we ask ourselves. Why are we talking about this today? Well, let me
Sonia drop some knowledge.
drop the knowledge. Let me go off, as the kids say. Alrighty. Well, I guess as a way to put it, pollination is arguably one of the most vital mechanisms involved in the maintenance of biodiversity because, like I said before, it facilitates flowering, like the plant reproduction, flowering plant reproduction.
Yes.
It's not like it's for flowers specifically, but anyways, I'll keep going. So I guess
Wait, it is specifically for flowers, or it's not?
it's
Or
it's
just
for
plant?
flowers. It's
Okay, for flower.
for
Okay.
flowers, yeah. Flowering plant reproduction, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess as like a global implication, aside from threatening many of the world's ecosystems and habitats and all that kind of fun stuff, pollinator declines may also jeopardize food security. So globally, 87 of the world's major crop varieties depend on these like vector pollinators
Yeah.
for pollination,
Oh
right?
wow.
So which accounts for about 35% of the world's food production volume. So
Okay.
yeah, so like if we didn't have these, bumblebees and all that kind of stuff, if they continue to go extinct as a result of like human-induced climate change and I guess overall biodiversity loss,
Yeah.
the global like this could vastly contribute to starvation around the world and promote famines because if the main crops, like if 35% of the world's food production is reduced or like taken away because we don't have these pollinators, like a lot of people are going to starve.
Damn. People
Yeah.
not gonna have their cherry tomatoes for the TikTok pasta.
They're not gonna have those cherry tomatoes. They're not gonna have, the isn't there like the place where people go to take pictures in a sunflower field? Like
Mhm.
people aren't gonna be able to take their Instagram photos.
Yeah, you're gonna be at home with your white wall.
Yep. Or yeah. I was gonna say, well, my
or
room is like a
beige wall.
weird beige color, but
Close enough.
yeah, but I guess like if you want to look at it from an economic perspective, because maybe
Mhm.
starvation isn't something that like rings a
You
bell
care
for you. The global production of crops that depend on pollinators is an industry worth about $577 billion US annually, and is responsible for the millions of jobs around the world.
Oh my god.
So $577 billion US.
And a million jobs?
Well, millions of jobs.
Oh, millions. Oh wow.
Because
Okay.
like think of like all the farmers that are like planting these flowering plants, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll be out of business, right?
We stand our farmers too.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
A lot of money gone.
Yeah, but currently, I guess just to continue this conversation, currently the abundance and I guess the well-being of pollinators is being jeopardized by things like land use changes, intensive agricultural practices, invasive species, pesticide use. So going back earlier when we were talking about Rachel Carson and DDT, like DDT isn't really around anymore, but like still other pesticides and arguably most destructively human-induced climate change. Like all of these things are contributing to overall biodiversity loss and the extinction of pollinator species. And even like despite all of this, right, despite all that's going on, scientists have tried to replicate the process of pollination through, I guess, various manned and robotic interventions. So by making like drones and stuff like that to try to facilitate the pollination process. But it's been largely unsuccessful because it's either been too expensive, too labor intensive, and all that kind of stuff. So bees, we can't take their jobs. Like AI is not taking bees' jobs. Like they can't do anything about it.
They are not replaceable.
No, they're not. They are essential workers.
Yes. Lawyers, yes. But bees,
no. In the context of looking at pollinators such as bumblebees, then other pollinators, I guess, one of the most stark examples of the widespread loss we're currently experiencing was recently reported by researchers at the University of Ottawa and University College London. So go Canada and go our fellow England
Go Her
neighbors.
Majesty. Is it Her Majesty?
It's Her Majesty.
Go Her Majesty.
But
So Her Majesty.
They found that areas heavily impacted by climate change saw significant declines in bumblebee populations. So, and what's even more startling, in fact, is that in just one generation, the likelihood of bumblebee population surviving in a given place had declined by more than 30% because of frickin' climate change killing those bees. Yep, and this paper, by the way, as like an aside, it took into account factors like land use changes, intensive agricultural practices, stuff like that, and was solely looking at the implications of climate change, human-induced climate change on bumblebee populations. So in case you're thinking, well, other things could have caused it, it wasn't like climate change. No, like this article specifically.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. They thought of that. But anyways, so papers like this suggest that if human-caused climate change progresses, we may face a future with fewer pollinators and ultimately far less biodiversity.
That's not good.
It's not good. And widespread widespread famine and environmental degradation may ultimately push humanity towards an unfathomable future. We gonna die because the bees are dying.
Hashtag save the bees.
Can't see it in the audio, but I'm doing the hashtag sign with my fingers.
I know a lot of our foods are like made by the bees and stuff. Like I remember once I saw like this graphic, basically like you don't care about the bees, blah blah blah. Like this is what you would not have if you didn't have the bees. Like it was like a picture of a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And God, that was a lot.
Yeah, like I said, like 35% of the crops, and it's not like the little like stupid ones that no one eats. No, it's the big ones that people eat. Like we
The
need
cherry
the
tomatoes.
yeah, we need. Oh, I said that weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so back on track though. This all sounds pretty depressing. You can't see it right now, but I'm sad. Like I'm
I am
making.
crying.
Yep. I'm having a very sad face right now. But with that, like it's depressing because it essentially sounds like we're barreling towards all of this uncertainty if we don't mitigate like our all these destructive practices that we're doing right now. So again, once again, it begs the question, what can be done to prevent the extinction of pollinators and biodiversity? Jaanuni, I want to hear your input on that first. What can we do to save the planet, to save Queen Earth?
Well, I think the first and foremost, celebrate Earth Day. You can do this by turning off your lights for an hour or for the whole day.
Just
If
keep
you're like,
them off forever. Go off the grid.
Yeah. Like honestly, to run away, leave your phone behind. That is how you can help.
Imagine like the 6-year-old comes across this audio. What do you do to save the planet? Leave home.
Mom, I'm leaving. The 2 girls on the podcast told me to leave.
I'm saving the planet.
Ooh, fun. You can stop using plastic water bottles. I'm actually, this is a paper straw. Oh, I'm drinking something. This is plastic. A paper straw.
Like, in all honesty, though, like, it's very funny. But in all honesty, for our viewers, like, there's, at the end of the day, like, even though it sounds good, oh, like, let's stop using single-use plastic. That's very important. It is absolutely necessary. Jaanuni, good that you're using a recycled straw. But there is a lot more that needs to be done.
Oh, shit.
God dang it, we gotta do, I don't know what I was gonna say.
You gotta plant some trees.
Mm-hmm.
You can donate money actually to help plant trees.
Mm-hmm.
We can pop that link down below.
Yeah, we will. There's a lot of good organizations out there.
What else can we do, Sohnia?
Well, from the little research that I've done, essentially, it basically requires a lot of radical changes. Like, much needs to be done by various stakeholders, not just by us individuals, but by a lot of people. Like, we need to turn on our caps.
Teslas.
Yeah. So, I didn't really hear what you said. I just heard Tesla.
Yeah, so not all of us can buy one.
Yeah, not about no. Like,
no.
I have $3.97 in my bank account right now.
$3?
We all can't afford. Pardon?
Did you say $3.97?
$3.97.
I'll put in a nice $1.08.
$1.08?
Yeah.
$1.08?
8 cents.
Oh, okay. $1.08? Sorry, but back on topic here. Basically, with all these radical changes, there a lot needs to be done. So there was published by the Breakthrough National Center for Climate Restoration in Melbourne, which is basically this independent think tank focused on climate policy. Their report proposed numerous ideas for transitioning the world's economy to a zero carbon emission system. So in their paper, if you decide to take a look, we'll link it below. But in their paper, they make it very clear that it is no easy task, as the effort required to transition the world's economy to this zero carbon system, or zero carbon emission system, would, quote, be akin in scale to the World War II emergency mobilization. So the amount of effort needed to transition the world's economy to a zero carbon emission system would be massive. Like the logistical like nightmare, a lot needs to be done, which is why Greta Thunberg, I think I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong.
Thunberg.
I feel bad for not being able to pronounce her name properly.
It's Thunberg.
I think it's pronounced Thunberg though.
It's TH.
Yeah, but she's from
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably. How to say her name? Okay. Greta. How do you pronounce? Greta. Oh, yeah, it's Thun.
So I guess this is why Greta Thunberg is yelling at the world's political leaders saying, get off your asses, we need to get in shape.
She's another queen we stand.
She is another queen. She's not going this year to the world's climate summit because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
But
It's
she makes
2021 and COVID-19 is still here.
and we'll probably be here for a long time. Anyways,
Back to the climate change issue.
the world's screwed.
The
Anyways,
world is on fire, guys, okay?
So
do something about it.
we're laughing, but we're anxious.
Yeah.
But anyways, aside from like the massive scale endeavor that needs to go on to save the planet, there are other things that we consider on a regional or more individual level.
Yeah.
So, for example, moving towards more sustainable actions, such as diversifying the agricultural landscape with different crops. So rather than planting just like one type of plant, you plant a variety, which ultimately increases biodiversity, because rather than having one thing, there's many. Yeah. Protecting natural areas, growing native wildflowers in gardens and parks to promote I'm stuttering. Growing I'm going to say that sentence again. So basically what also can be done is growing native wildflowers in gardens and parks to provide food and home for pollinators. So make them not homeless anymore, give them food, prevent them from going extinct. And other things that can be done is reducing the use of pesticides and promoting alternative forms of pest control. And these are all valid ways of mitigating the effects of pollinator declines and biodiversity loss caused by human-induced climate change. I keep saying human-induced because it is. It's not just climate change, it's human-induced.
You don't think you're at fault? You are.
Yep, we've made it a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess just to summarize, to conclude this all, right, is that to conclude, there's basically, I'm going to take this part out because the ending's not relevant. I'm not going to say that part. That's it, I'm done.
Basically, what Sohnia is trying to tell us is that the world is on fire. It's going down. Go and kind of talk to your, political leaders, not even like at a federal level, but like provincially, or like talk to your mayor, Frank Scarpitti. I was like, go talk and like talk about preserving these, you said areas with like native plants and stuff.
Yeah, like plant native plants in your area, not ones that are invasive.
Yeah. So like protect those areas, and if you're looking for something more in a personal responsibility, again, like single-use plastic. Like I'm pretty sure you can find multiple ways in like reducing that and avoiding plastic in general. Like bring reusable bag to the grocery store. Get a water bottle. Get those reusable straws.
And there's also so much that can be, sorry to cut you off there, but like you don't even have, like, if you're not comfortable talking to a political leader in your community, there's so many things that you can do on an individual level, like volunteering with different organizations. Here in Ontario, like I personally in high school and even now have had the opportunity to volunteer with different environmental organizations in the community. Like a simple Google search, you come across so many. Like even during the pandemic, if you're not able to do it in person, there's also things that you can do online in
Yeah.
terms of advocacy work and science communication and stuff like that.
Yeah, and definitely you can use social media to continue raising awareness, because I know like there's a lot of issues going around in the world, and using your platform to educate others about this can really go a long way.
Mhm.
And I
Well,
think that kind of concludes this week's episode.
I think it does. Jaanuni, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sonia, for having me.